25 degrees here, just about 9 o'clock. Looks like a fine winter day. What do you say we go out there and share the knowledge we have accumulated in the last 3 hours of studying weather maps? And boy, it is busy. Rex is already down there. Come on, let's go. Steve, I gotta put this on you. Come on, let's go. Can you put it on? I can't hold the camera and do it. Plus, I have to put my gloves on while I'm holding my camera. I got my gloves on. Are you ready to go? T-Rex, it's a busy map. You think you can stay out with me for the entire time? 2, 3, and out the door. Wasn't much of a path, but it's the path that the dog uses, and the cat's not sure whether to walk over the ice or the path. It is crunchy outside. We did have a lot of defrost going on yesterday, but then it refrosted last night, and probably should put some ice melt down here, but it's going to be buried in snow over the next couple of weeks. It's a busy morning, beautiful clouds in the sky. I don't know where to start. I think I should start with yesterday. Record high temperatures again yesterday in the order of 85 to 90 from Colorado to Texas to Louisiana, Florida, up to North Carolina, 70s and 80s. And here in New England, we've had cold air advection. And the temperature this morning here in New England, at my house, I just showed you, is about 25. The breeze stayed up, so we did not decouple. What I mean by that is some nights when it's clear, nice big moon in the sky last night near Jupiter. Did you see that? The air goes calm, and there's snow on the ground, and this is the temperature map from this morning, about 8 o'clock or so. And look at that. All those crosses are areas that had no wind. The red numbers are wind gusts. So Nantucket was gusting to 28 miles an hour. Matinicus Rock off the coast of Maine, 28 miles an hour, where temperatures were 25 to 30. But inland, all those crosses are areas that were calm. And we had a 7 in Epping, New Hampshire, for one of the coldest spots in all of New England with the radiational cooling. Why is it warmer in Vermont? Well, in Vermont this morning, it's snowing. This was not really part of the forecast. Look at the size of those snowflakes. About 7 o'clock in the morning, people showing up at Sugar Bush to go skiing this morning. Did they say 2 more inches of snow last night? I didn't say that. Why? Why is it snowing? Well, it just has to snow every day, and this is day 39 in a row with snow somewhere in New England. Most of those days have been Vermont, but some of those days when it's been sunny in Vermont have been Cape Cod. And we have no end in sight to this streak of snowy days. Mount Washington this morning may have a little bit of an explanation. I talk about the difference between high barometer and low barometer cold. Well, even though the pressure is rising, there's a steep lapse rate this morning, so it still looks like low barometer cold based on this temperature profile of 4 below zero at the top of the mountain and 14 above zero at the bottom. And so there's an 18 degree gradient, and when you have warmer air near the ground, it tends to rise, and I think that's an explanation of why it's snowing in Vermont. And there's also an Arctic boundary in northern New England. I talk about these boundaries. Sometimes I talk about an Arctic boundary or a polar boundary or a subtropical boundary. There's basically those 3 different streams in the jet stream, and with such serious record warmth in the south, that's a subtropical jet stream, and then the polar jet stream is about where 540 sits up. We talk about these numbers, 540, a lot, and then the Arctic stream is 510. And so we have the 570, the 540, and the 510 all on the map today. And we will going forward through the week. And the cold air presses south, warm air presses north, and you have a rapid flow in between with wave after wave of low pressure coming at us every day. But the storm track is shifting a little bit south, so now we're going to see more in the way of snow, and it's going to buckle up a little bit, so we're going to see more in the way of heavy snow and potential 2 or 3 nor'easters in the next 10 days. That's more nor'easters than we've had in the last 2 winters. This morning, the sun coming up over Candlewood Lake in southwestern New Hampshire. Jack Drake, meteorologist, posted this picture from Billy, the photographer, and that's called a sun pillar. And that has to do with refraction and reflection of sunlight off of ice crystals. Red sky and morning, sailor take warning. And of course, I got lost looking for what Candlewood Lake is, and I found out it's the largest lake in Connecticut, and it's man-made. It was made in the 1920s to help generate electricity for the factories in southwestern Connecticut with water drained from the Housatonic River. And now it's just this massive lake. And thank you for sharing, and I always have to dig deep for all these things I talk about. T-Rex walking around, smelling the critters from last night, barking up a storm. And it's Saturday, so the workers are not working. You can see the progress that's been made on the boardwalk there, and it's high tide, and I'm not taking my gloves off to zoom in or out. The satellite image this morning shows a lot of things. It shows those sky waves of altocumulus snow clouds coming out of New York and into Vermont and New Hampshire, and then the clear skies in eastern New England. And then you widen it out, and there's the storm clouds over the mid-Atlantic states. Not exactly a storm, but the front that's going to come back north. And there's this curious cloud that stretches from Bermuda to Cape Hatteras. That's really interesting. That's a boundary. All these boundaries in the atmosphere, and they're all going to take aim on New England. All right. I think I might have to do a timeout and put the animals in so we can talk more comprehensively about the forecast. And so, okay, that one is coming in. Rex, all right, this way. And bear with me. Come back in 2 minutes for the real forecast. Rex, come on, we're going in. Steve is already wanting to go in, even though the machines aren't out here. I don't know why. Rex chose not to go in. He's going to stay out here and bother us. I think Steve doesn't like that crunchiness of the ground. That's my guess. I'm not sure. All right, so here's the forecast. Let's go to the NAM. 3K high res, and certainly up the ante for tonight. And we're going to talk about, the time, right, the time. Another issue that people have asked about, what does that Z, the Zulu, mean up in the upper left there in that clock? Well, the time is measured on weather maps by Greenwich Mean Time, Greenwich, England, which is also called Universal Coordinated Time. And they came up with Zulu for the military and aviation when you have to, Papa Bravo, Zulu, to pronounce words that were clear, and Zulu was the one that they chose for the time. So Z in the upper left on these maps, when I show it in a second, has to do with the time in Greenwich, England, and we have to subtract 5 hours from that because they're 5 hours ahead. So in other words, these models come out at 12Z, that's 7 a.m., 18Z, that's 1 p.m., 0Z, sorry, this is just school. We're at school. Did you want to go to school this morning? All right, now the NAM 3K came out at 6Z, 1 a.m. run. And the clock in the upper left is counting off. And I'm going to begin it around 11 a.m., which is, or 10 a.m. is 15Z. 16Z is 11. 17Z is 12. 18Z is 1. We're starting to see those blue lines lift north. And then here comes the snow, and it looks like it's going to come in instead of like two bands that we had yesterday. It comes in as kind of one band, the two just joining together very quickly, and it's snowing in most of New England by 4Z. That's 11 p.m. 5Z is midnight, and I'm going to stop it at 6Z again. This is 1 a.m. tonight. Same place I stopped it yesterday because there's a lot more blue. The 540 decameter line arcing into southern New England. It's actually snowing beyond, further south of that alleged snow line, which is 540. And the 546, the alleged rain line, is into Long Island, and it shows sleet. And it is a really tight gradient there between the snow north and the sleet along the south coast. And there's not much rain with this system. Green, still well south of Nantucket. So Martin, at this point, I think you're snowing 1/4 to 1/2 inch an hour on Nantucket. And many of us, especially where it's colder inland, you wring out the moisture better, so it's more efficient. So while it'll be snowing a dense 1/2 inch per hour around the Cape Cod Canal, it could be snowing a much less dense 1 inch per hour at your house in Shrewsbury, Steve. So that's called the lean cold rule. So even though the heaviest QPF may end up at the south coast, when you melt it down, say the south coast comes up with a 0.8 or 0.9, And when you melt it down in Shrewsbury, you come up with a 0.6 or a 0.7. We all probably end up with the same snow depth at about 6 inches, but it's a heavier 6 inches to shovel closer to the water. So anyhow, that's my lean cold rule. Put it back in motion, and the low pressure system is deepening. It looks like it wants to go sub 1,000 millibars, going over our benchmark low pressure over the 40 north, 70 west coordinates, and that's where we usually get our best weather, if you like storms, I mean. And the back edge of the snow, well, it does change to rain and stops there on Nantucket for a while. The back edge does not push out of eastern New England till about 1 or 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So that's close to 12 hours of precipitation, mostly snow, all snow, Boston and most of southern New England. So 12 hours times a ½ inch an hour on average gets us to 6 inches of snow. That's the forecast for tonight, 6 inches of snow. Rex, could you please stop? What is he barking at? Let's go for a walk. Hey, there's my Christmas tree. It finally came down yesterday. Can we go ice skating today on Arthur's patio right there? Yeah, I think we could. So be really careful walking around. The ice melt is definitely necessary. You might want to pre-treat tonight, although it is going to be a low-density snow. Oh boy, I hope you weren't in a hurry today. Usually Sunday's the not in a hurry day. And this is just the fourth time it snows in New England since last Sunday, but the most significant snow for a lot of southern New England since probably 2 winters ago. Now let's see how fast I can go with the rest of it. The battle zone between the cold in Canada and the warm in the southeastern United States, and one storm after another coming into the Pacific Ocean, means we are really going into a real interesting pattern. I don't want to call it fantastic because a lot of people don't like the snow, but those of us that do like it, it's going to be a lot of work taking care of it as it comes in. But here it comes with the, oh, I forgot to say, the Euro model. Here's the Euro model from yesterday. It showed a 960 low in eastern Maine. I'm like, there's no way. I don't think so. The Euro model has been waffling so bad, and it did a bad job with this past few days. About 14 days ago, it said we were going to end up warm with rain showers in southern New England this week, and it did not happen. And the Euro has kind of gone wonky, so I'm going back to that model that I've had the most faith in when all others seem to be waffling all over the place. It worked for us back on December 20th. It worked for us on January 20th, and I'm going back to the Canadian model. Here it is going forward because it's much more steady, it's much more consistent, and it's much more logical. There's our low going right along just south of the south coast tonight and tomorrow. And then cold air advection, but not that windy. There should not be lift hold issues at the ski areas tomorrow. There's another wave going north of us. I forgot to mention that when I showed the NAM, with some snow at the Canadian border on the Arctic front tomorrow night and into Tuesday. A reason to keep the days in a row of snow going. Tuesday, though, it looks like the two systems try and stay separate. Northern stream separate from the southern stream, so we may miss the snow in southern New England on Tuesday, and that's a may. And then here comes more cold air coming in on Wednesday, another high pressure system. And on the backside of these high pressure systems, that's where we've been getting all our snow. And here it comes. And boy, that looks pretty impressive there. Wednesday night and Thursday, another low going very close to Cape Cod. That is a nor'easter. High pressure to the north, low pressure just over Cape Cod. The mix does come into southern New England. That's probably a more like 10 to 12 inch snowfall for a lot of New England, and it barely shuts down on Friday with more cold and high pressure in southeastern Canada. And then here's where the Canadian looks like how the Euro looked a couple days ago, with waves of low pressure coming along, and just south of New England on the boundary, stalled from Nantucket down to Georgia. Days of snow on this Canadian forecast for Saturday into Sunday, into Monday. Now we're at 240 hours. This is President's Day, February 17th. So we've gone from the Super Bowl to the Valentine's Day to President's Day, all with snow in the forecast. And if you look at this, the 504 and the 510 line are again in far northern New England. That's the Arctic air, and the 570 line down around the Gulf of Mexico. So the pattern is still locked and loaded to go beyond 10 days. And now if we put the 10-day snowfall forecast into motion. It's something like we haven't seen in some time. I know there's been threats and threats, but this is getting into the shorter range now. And there's the tonight, and the purple is about 6 inches, and it goes very close to Nantucket. And then a little lull tomorrow, a little bit more in far northern New England, and then Wednesday night, Thursday, there we're getting to dark purple. Now we're getting to a foot of snow for a lot of New England, the dark purple. And then you get to next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Now the dark purple's turned into almost a salmon color, and that salmon color is a 24-inch contour. So much of New England is forecast to get 24 inches of snow in the next 240 hours. 24 inches of snow in 240 hours. That's 0.1 inch of snow per hour for the next 10 days on average, right? I hope that math worked out. I'm going to have to check that with a calculator. Maybe have to edit it out. All right. Sorry this got so long and convoluted. I try and fill my head with as much knowledge as I can, and it gets confusing, especially with dogs barking. At least there's no excavator working. Yesterday was a pretty lazy and more. It was a pretty day, and we did have some melting, but obviously not that much melting where the sun did not hit. Look at that ice over there. Could literally go skating right there. So the play-by-play on yesterday, and a couple of fur balls, midday commentary, and then the sun set over between the uprights at the Four River Bridge. So the sun's getting further north every day. That's one of the reasons the stakes get higher, because it's still very cold in Canada, and it's getting the sun's getting higher and higher in the south. And look at this. I can see the Four River Bridge from the backyard since they cut down all those trees. Wow. So I can watch the sunset right between those. Well, actually, by the time I see the sun in the evening again, it's going to be over there somewhere, because it's going to be cloudy this evening and mostly snowy for the next 10 days. And more from yesterday. Thanks for making it this far. 1:30 update. Looks like it's just about freezing with some dripping causing ice in the back, but where the sun is out, we've got some melting, so maybe we didn't have to do all that shoveling yesterday, but you never know. Better safe than sorry. The front yard's melting pretty good, because the front yard faces south, and February sun gets higher every day, does a good job. So get some melting. Now the snow melted off the roof there, that's cool. And almost could have got away with not shoveling yesterday, but now we have dry instead of slushy sidewalks. For now, 1 day in a row, 2 days in a row until tomorrow night, which is now tonight, because this is yesterday, right? And more and more and more. And the staging area. So I was just informed that that's called chink stone. Chinks together. Loader on the scene. Beautiful. Did I mention the wind gusted to about 35 this morning on the water? The cooler but dry air coming in ahead of the next system. 3 p.m. fur ball update. Everybody cozy? How's the weather? Getting colder by the second, but blue sky, so we did melt a lot of the snow, just not in our yard where it's all icy back there, but the front yard with the sun is doing well. White caps are simmering down. Probably go out one more time to get the sunset and the moon. The full cold moon is next Wednesday. But it's big and bright tonight. There goes the sun. So I guess it's good that I cleaned it yesterday. It's crispy again now, but probably would have been easier to clean today. As this is what the sidewalk would look like if no one did it. Kind of like Art's driveway. But you can see half the driveway dried by itself. Let's go check the sunset here. 4:45. Want to check out the moon. I looked up and there's the hawk in the wind. They love this breeze. There's the moon. And it's windy and it's cold. Every time it gets cold, it snows within a couple days, it gets warm for a day, and then it gets cold, and then it snows. Rinse, lather, and repeat. It's Groundhog Day. and you can't really make it out because it's so bright, but the sun is setting between the uprights at the Four River Bridge. Look at that. Got a field goal. Remember last week it was still to the left? Perfect for Super Bowl weekend. The waxing snow moon. Take this over to the here. Yeah. Now we've had this cliff many times, but not covered with ice and barren. So let's just play this out now with this noise of the wind and the beautiful cold sunset. I love this. As next week, the sun will be setting to the right of the Four River Bridge. Right. More and more